Welcome back. It is waiver day, isn't it? So we'll see how many of these players cleared. There's a lot of guys right now on waivers. I would imagine there might be some general managers of teams that could use a player or two that are scouring these lists and figure out who would work for them. But there's also tryouts that are being ended. We have not seen anybody on a tryout yet actually get a contract. We'll see if that changes. It should over the next week. But Alex Chason released from his tryout by the Bruins, and after the game I watched the other night between the Bruins and the Flyers, I kind of saw that coming. He missed prime opportunities in front of the net, and you got to bury those. You've got to make them employ you. So I like Chason. I hope that maybe he can find another job in the National Hockey League, maybe during the season. It's not the first time he's been on a tryout. I think it's like the fourth. I know he ends up on tryouts a lot. I feel bad for the guy. But at any rate, he's been released from his tryout, and DiPietro has been waived by Boston. That is Mike DiPietro, the former prospect for the Vancouver Canucks, who will be headed down to Providence. And so, we'll see how things go for DiPietro. And then we get into some waiver news. So the Wild first, they have waived Sweeney, I should say. Seeney's on a different team. Sweeney, McIntyre, Lucchini, and Fogarty have all been waived. Also, Ryan Hartman has said he wants to stay. The plan is that he's going to sign an extension. Of course, we've seen Minnesota sign Zuccarello. We've seen them sign Foligno. The third veteran that was part of that conversation with Bill Guerin was Ryan Hartman. So Guerin has a certain core of players he wants to keep around, and so look for a Hartman extension. Probably, I would think, before the regular season starts, and then we'll be able to look at all three contracts and say, all right, how did he do with these three contracts? Getting back to the waiver wire news, however, with the Winnipeg Jets, Harkins, Malott, Sautner, Christian Reichel, and Tony Nato have been waived. I couldn't just put Reichel, and I couldn't just put K. Reichel, because somebody somewhere would have been like, is that Kirby Reichel? And they'd be, no. So, Christian Reichel and Tony Nato. Now, of the players that have been waived by the Jets, Harkins is the one I'll be interested to see if he actually clears. Harkins, there's got to be a fourth line somewhere that might decide to give Harkins a look, but we'll see what happens. The Tampa Bay Lightning waive Chaffee, they waive Sean Day, and they waive Philippe Myers as well. And so they're all headed down to the AHL if they clear. Columbus, not waiver news here, but we will talk a little bit about Columbus. Voronkov. So Voronkov coming over from the KHL can return to the KHL if he is not on an NHL roster at the end of December. So he's got that out clause in his contract. For Columbus, of course, they didn't sign him because they didn't want him to make the roster, but we'll see. We'll see whether or not he ends up on that roster, and if that's the case at the end of December. So that'll be an interesting one to watch. Tarasov. So the reason you pick up Spencer Martin may very well be Tarasov being hurt. That would appear to be the case. He may not be ready for the start of the season. He has a knee injury he's dealing with. So doesn't sound like it's anything major, but you pick up Martin as a stopgap measure. The Vancouver Canucks, busy today, thus the Canucks jersey. They've waived Jat Wu. They've waived Matt Irwin. I'm a little bit surprised with Matt Irwin. I thought, after they signed him, he'd probably at least break camp with the team. Sheldon Dries, Jack Rathbone, Zach Sawchenko as well. Sawchenko will go down and form the battery in the net with Silovs. And again, Rathbone a couple years ago, there was a lot of hope and hype around Rathbone. It just hasn't worked out. Ratu and Podkolzin are amongst the group headed to the AHL. So both of those players, highly thought of prospects at certain points in time. For Podkolzin, it's been tough. And for Ratu, of course, hopefully he has a good run with Abbotsford and gets called up early. Also, Hirose and McDonough being sent down to the AHL. They do not require waivers, of course. Hirose, I think, will be one of the first call-ups on the blue line. Again, very often when you're trying to figure out who makes it and who doesn't, it's easier just to send the guys down who don't need waivers. And as much as we talk about who did or didn't make the team, and look at that opening night roster, go, how did this happen? Within a month, a lot of the rosters are going to have changes due to injuries, trades, waves, all this other stuff. Vancouver going with a very veteran group, and so we'll see how things go. The Ottawa Senators. So this came out from Elliot Friedman. It's also been backed up by Bruce Garriock, and it's that the Ottawa Senators and Shane Pinto, the talks are not close. The word has it that the Sens are offering him essentially about $1 million, which they have the cap space to do. They do not have the cap space for the $2.5 million he's seeking. Again, it'll be a very short-term deal. This is why the Sens would be trying to move some money in order to re-sign Pinto. But at this point in time, it sounds like it's not going very well. As we always say, though, that can change in an instant. We'll see if that does change anytime soon. But for Ottawa, I think they need Shane Pinto in the lineup, and I think they need him in the lineup to start the season. He's a good, solid option for them, likely at the number 3 center spot. And so here's to hoping that gets done. The Sens lose a player today, so they have one freed up spot for signing a contract if they want to. The Anaheim Ducks have claimed former first-round draft pick Lassie Thompson on waivers from Ottawa. So everybody else from yesterday cleared. The only one claimed is Lassie Thompson. And we'll see how he does with the Anaheim Ducks. Again, he was a former first-round draft pick, and we do talk about guys who are steals on the waiver wire. And Thompson would kind of fit into that. Thinking of a guy like Forsling in Florida, for instance. Young player, highly thought of as a prospect, and then it takes him a little while. So we'll see if Anaheim can do with Thompson what other teams have done with defensemen that have been reclamation projects, or at the very least just a project, right? But yeah, so for Ottawa, they had a logjam on the blue line anyways. I don't think losing Thompson hurts their depth at all, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he does in Anaheim. The Montreal Canadiens getting back to the waiver wire. Elias Anderson being waived. Maillet has been waived as well. Reinbacher has been loaned to the Swiss League, so he's been returned to Europe. Made a good impression in his first training camp with the Montreal Canadiens, but ultimately ends up headed back over to Europe. And again, Elias Anderson being sent down. It's one of those interesting ones where I know during the summer there have been a few times where I've seen that question of, do you think Anderson will do much with Montreal? And they picked up Anderson. At this point, he appears to be an AHL level player, but we'll see if he does get called up early in the season. The Chicago Blackhawks getting back to waivers. They've waived Gust, they waived Hartman, and there's Seney, Brent Seney in Chicago. Hartman as well. And again, these guys should all clear. One thing with so many names on the waiver wire, there's going to be a few that clear that we may look back on and say, how'd that guy clear waivers? The LA Kings, busy. Waiver wire-wise, very busy. Connaughton's been waived along with Fagemo. Hicketts, Hodgson, Maltsev, Moverare, Santini, Akil Thomas, and Tynan. So Akil Thomas had a hat trick in the preseason. Does not get him a job with the LA Kings. He's being sent down. Unless he gets claimed. And I don't know that necessarily happens. But again, that's where the whole, preseason stats are great. But when it comes to who makes the team and who doesn't, a good preseason doesn't necessarily mean you end up in the lineup. So we'll see if all of these players the Kings have on waivers actually clear or not. The New York Rangers have waived Louis Domingue. Not a surprise there, but Mac Hollowell being on the list is a mild surprise, I would guess. He comes out of Toronto where he had a decent call-up with them last year. So now he's on waivers. The team could pick him up for free. The San Jose Sharks, a team that might be in on Hollowell because that blue line could use a little bit of help. Sabourin and Todd have been waived by the San Jose Sharks. The St. Louis Blues also getting their waiver groove on today. Will Bitton, Walt Kalanick, McGing, Pekka have all been waived to be sent down to the AHL as well. And the Washington Capitals, to round things out, they waived Chase Prisky. They also waived Riley Sutter. So Riley Sutter will be headed back down to Hershey as Hershey looks to reclaim their title for another season. They won the Calder Cup last June. They're looking to repeat this year. We'll see how things go for Hershey. But there you go. You guys are all set for today. As far as I can tell, unless something dramatic happens, which it could, but we'll see, right? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.